Hey, John Mayfield, the real estate tech guy. You are doing a great job. Keep up the good work. I want to do a quick recap over life estates and just ensure that everybody has the correct parties and the terminology and how a life estate works so that you can answer any and all questions on the real estate exam. So if you have a quick moment, let's go through the scenarios here on the whiteboard. And want to just remind you that there are 4 different people that we are going to look at in this example. 2 of these are optional. 2 of these are pretty mandatory, okay? So you do need a grantor. You also need a life tenant. An option could be a remainderman. I am a creative speller, so if I spell something incorrectly, my apologies. And we have what is called pour atrevet. Some people may call it pour atrevet, but I always pronounce it pour atrevet. These 2 are optional. Okay? Now, let's kind of go into some more details on these. The grantor owns the real estate and is the creator of the life estate. And I'm going to abbreviate that. The life tenant owns the life estate. And then the optional remainderman is someone who receives the estate because it's no longer a life estate. It's actually a fee simple, absolute. They own it. They own the fee in fee simple. So they receive the estate after the life estate ends. Okay? And then pour atrevet is for the life of another. In other words, if we have a pour atrevet, it's based on their life, okay? That's the only real part that they play in this scenario. So let's go draw through a couple of these just so you can see how it works. Real basic life estate is you would have a person, let's call this person Don, and they are going to create, remember they grant, because they are the grantor, and so they grant a life estate to their daughter, Anne. Anne would be the owner of the life estate, or what we also refer to as the life tenant. Now, I use different terminology because they love to ask weird questions or phrase the questions very strangely on the exam. And so it's very important for you to look at all of these different types of angles and ways or words they could use within the question. I always like to say these types of questions are not softball pitches. They're long, big paragraphs of chunky information with lots of stuff going on. And if you don't know who the players are and what their role is in this situation, it's going to be challenging to answer the questions, okay? So I just like to use different words and terminology so on test day you'll be good to go. So let's go back over here to the board and let's look at this situation. So fix Ann's smile there for her. In this situation, basic life estate, I do want you to know that Ann has all of these rights she can do with the property. Remember in our for early on in the course when we talked about land being the natural items, the trees, the rocks, the shrubs, the soil, and you own your real estate to the center of the earth out to infinity. And the definition of land was out to infinity, center of the earth, all the natural items. Now we added onto that real estate, which included the man-made items along with the natural items. Still, center of the earth to infinity. You own your rights vertically and horizontally. So you buy land on the ocean, you can build a big condominium project and sell off blocks of air so people can have those views of the ocean, right? You own the air rights and you can have a legal description drawn up and sell off the blocks of air. Now we also talked about land, natural items, real estate, natural and man-made, but real property, which encompasses land, natural, real estate, natural and man-made, but real property not only takes those two items, but it includes those bundle of legal rights. So Ann has the right to do whatever she wants to with the property. However, remember, this is just a life estate. So when Ann dies, in this simple, easy scenario, the property reverts back to Don, the grantor. Don't get hung up and say, well, what happens if Ann sold it to somebody? Well, when the life estate ends, it reverts back to the original grantor. We don't know why people are out in Las Vegas gambling right now, but they are. And if someone makes a loan to Ann and Ann dies, the property reverts back to the grantor. Okay, now they won't get into those legal questions on the test. You don't need to know that, but you do need to know Don's the creator of the life estate. He's granting a life estate to Ann. She's the life tenant. She owns the life estate, but whenever she dies, the property will revert back to Don. Now, let's add some depth to this. And this time, Don grants or creates a life estate to Ann. And we know Ann, she's the life tenant. She owns it. She can do all those things she wants to. But instead of basing it on Ann's life, I better make this Don. And remember, he's the grantor, creator of the life estate. Instead of basing it on Ann's life, he creates a remainderman, or names a remainderman, Mike, his son. And now when Ann dies, the property goes to Mike, who's the remainderman, and Mike owns the estate. Free and clear, the life estate is over. That's why I said over here, I wanted you to understand the remainderman receives the estate. That's what we call it. In other words, Mike owns the real estate, the property, and he owns it in fee simple. It's his because the life estate has ended in this example. And then the third option And I could probably use this same, let me just use a different color pen here, is you could have two actual options. And let me just put a new page because I think that would make it better. So in this example, Don, the grantor, creates a life estate to Anne. She's the life tenant. She's the owner, O-W-N-E-R, owner of the life estate, right? She has all those rights. Don creates a life estate and grants it to Anne. But Don can this time now base everything on his wife Doris's life. So Doris would be the pour à travail. And in this case, whenever Doris dies, the life estate's over at that point. Doris dies, the life estate's over. So Anne no longer owns the life estate. She's no longer a life tenant. And one or two items would happen. It either reverts back, if it reverts back to Don, the grantor, or if there's a remainderman, listed, if Mike's listed, the son, when Doris dies, then it would go to Mike. You understand that? So pour à travail, it's just based on their life, the life of another. But in this example, Anne's still alive. Her mom died, Doris, and once Doris dies, the life estate ends. Anne's no longer a life tenant. Anne doesn't have the property anymore. All those rights she had are now terminated and gone, and it's either going to revert back to Don if no remainderman is listed, or if Don listed a remainderman, when Doris dies, it goes to Mike. I hope that makes sense. I think you all are doing a great job, and you got it down and ready to answer any question that you see on the real estate examination, okay? So keep up the good work. We're going to keep moving on through the course. Some of you are watching this on YouTube saying, wait a minute, John, I'm not in the course. Well, I'm putting this into one of my modules for my students because at Global Real Estate School, I like to have interactivity with video and audio. I have audio feedback on my multiple choice questions. It's not just reading and clicking your mouse and saying, oh my gosh, when will this get over with? No, I want to have fun and I want you to learn the material. And check us out at Global Real Estate School if you're watching YouTube, but I've got to get my students on to the next slide. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. And my Global Real Estate School students, you keep up the good work, okay?